So I'm Bo Lipari. I'm executive director with New Yorkers for Verified Voting. We've been advocating for a type of voting system based on paper ballots and a device called ballot scanner. So the question is, what types of voting systems are the alternatives? The first alternative, and one that has been much favored by many of our election officials and even some of our elected officials, are electronic touchscreen or push-button style computerized voting devices. You'll hear me refer to these as DREs. That stands for Direct Recording Electronic, because you record your vote directly on one of these machines by touching the screen or the push-button interface. The other type of system that is on the table here in New York is paper ballots and precinct-based ballot scanning systems. This type of system is based on a hand-marked paper ballot and uses computerized devices to provide accessibility for the disabled and as an automated way to count those hand-marked paper ballots. That's sort of the key difference between these two types of systems. The ballot scanning system involves a hand-marked paper ballot.
My name is Michael Seamus. I'm a distinguished career professor in the School of Computer Science at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. I've been here for 30 years. For the past 25 years, I've been involved in computerized voting system examinations. So over all of those years, I've done about 115 different voting system examinations.
If the choice was between what is generally considered DRE and paper ballot optical scan, is there a system you would favor between those two?
Oh, I would always favor DRE. DRE systems have a couple of important strengths. One is that they provide instantaneous programmable feedback to the voter, so the voter can be warned of anomalous conditions like undervoting or overvoting. And the second big advantage is that they're virtually impossible to tamper with.
Let me tell you why I and so many other people have concerns about DREs. What is it that upsets us about it? Well, first of all, technologists, people that understand computer security, have taken a good look at these machines, and we're shocked to find how little actual security seems to be built into these machines. How about the failures in actual elections? Well, there are hundreds I could give you. I'm just going to give you a few here today. But in November 2003 in Boone County, Indiana, the DRE's software reported 144,000 votes. And that sounds pretty good until you realize that Boone County only has 19,000 registered voters. And when they actually went back and checked the poll books, what did they find? They find that actually only 5,352 people had signed in to vote. Now, this was an obvious problem in Boone County. When you've only got 5,000 people showing up and you get a vote count of 144,000, you know you have a problem. But would anybody have ever noticed that in a larger district? If the margin of error had not been an absurd margin of error like this, but rather a small one of a few hundred votes or a few thousand votes, would anybody have ever noticed it? I maintain probably not. It's obvious in this case. Questionable results is another thing we see with DREs. Presidential undervote rates on the Sequoia Advantage. Sequoia Advantage is a push-button style voting machine that in '04 in New Mexico, 1 in every 19 ballots on the Advantage DREs didn't register any vote for president. This was a scale that was way off the charts in terms of the other percentages for undervote rates. What's another kind of problem we see? Well, this is a good one. This is sort of the was it a hacker or was it not? In Comal County, Texas, 2002, they had 3 winning candidates. Each one of them tallied exactly 18,181 votes, 3 in a row, which everybody said, well, that's pretty odd, but they never audited it. Well, a computer programmer knows that in this numeric notation that we programmers use, a 1 is the number for the letter A, and an 8 is the number for the letter H. So if we substitute the letters, 18,181 3 times in a row, this is what we get. Ha, 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 ha. So was this a hacker? Well, who knows? One of the problems with DRE systems, particularly paperless systems, is there's no way to go back and check. All you have is the results.
The problem with mark sense, or optical scan, is that the machine doesn't see the ballot the same way the voter does. You're supposed to fill in the oval completely and very black. However, if you don't do that, it may or may not count the ballot. For ballots which are ambiguous, they go to a resolution board, and a determination is made by humans as to whether or not the vote should count. And so if I, just to give you an example here, I'm going to overvote this ballot. Here's a vote for one office, and I'm going to vote for Bradley Maxwell. And then I'm going to put that through the machine, and it won't throw it back as an overvote because I didn't overvote in that office. Later on, somebody comes along, modifies the ballot by making it, but by making a check mark on it. Okay. Now when we see this, we have to invalidate the ballot.
You're positing that after a vote was cast, it could be tampered with very easily just by adding another mark on it.
It always is. If the ballots are subject to recount, that means they're going to pass through another human being's hands.
Do you know of any recounts that have occurred with paper ballot optical scan systems where the hand recounted ballots did not agree with what the scanner said was the count?
I don't know of any such, but I'm not sure I would know.
Do DRE opponents have valid criticisms of DRE systems?
Oh, yes. There is a criticism of the reliability of the systems. That is, how long will they continue to operate correctly once they are turned on? And our field experience with them has been exceptionally poor. In the 2004 election cycle, something like 10% of the DRE machines in use in the country failed on election day. And what happens, of course, is when you reduce the number of machines in a precinct, lines get longer, voters get frustrated, they don't have enough time to vote, and they balk and go home. Anytime you add a new piece of hardware to a voting machine, you certainly can't increase its reliability. And a stress test was done in California, where they're seriously considering using debold machines. They had 99 machines, which they used in a realistic election setting for a period of about 5 hours with voter-verified paper trail. During that test, 20% of the paper trails failed. Now, if you have a statute that requires a paper trail, and the paper trail breaks down on that voting machine, you must remove the voting machine from service. You know, these machines only have to work for about 30 hours a year. How somebody can build a piece of electronics that can't stay up for 30 hours is beyond me. You would never tolerate that in any kind of appliance that you ever bought. If it failed after 30 hours, you'd be back at the store with it.
Miami-Dade County, 2005. Now, this is an interesting case because Miami-Dade is the 8th largest county in the United States. 2 years ago, they spent $24.5 million to acquire DREs for Miami-Dade. They found that those DREs lost hundreds of votes due to a ballot programming error. This is not speculation. This is not maybe the votes were lost. Everybody agreed these machines literally lost hundreds of votes in the elections. They just were wiped out because of a ballot programming error. Also, they found out that the DREs cost twice what the officials had budgeted. Imagine that, twice what they had budgeted. Costs for DREs were always being told by the vendors they're going to be so low, it's going to be very low cost. But yet, again and again in practice, what do we find? Running DREs costs way more to run elections than any other type of voting system. Why? Primarily due to high vendor maintenance costs. Larry.
Yes.
We wanted to record you showing us your new machine. You want to run us through your little demo?
Sure, absolutely. Sequoia, of course, everyone knows it is a New York company made in New York, and we made the old machines, the old lever machines.
Sequoia Voting Systems is a subsidiary of the Smartmatic Corporation, a multinational company with offices in Barbados, Venezuela, Mexico, Taiwan, and Florida. The principal investor and CEO of Smartmatic holds dual Spanish and Venezuelan citizenship.
Plus, if there's anything that happens to the screen, it's a lot less expensive to repair. It's like $50 to repair a screen.
According to information on the 3M website, Sequoia voting machines use the 3M micro-touch panel. Online pricing for this touchscreen panel is about $600 a piece.
I've had one person even take a match and light the paper and nothing happened to it, just had a little spot on it.
This is a Sequoia paper audit trail, or VPAT. When a match is applied, it catches fire and burns. What do you expect to be the replacement ratio of this machine to lever machines?
At this point, we expect it to be the one-to-one replacement for the lever voting machine. I must also mention that this system is not a computer.
Do you have any sense of how many people can process through a voting system in, say, an hour? How many people can use a machine in a set amount of time?
That statement is going to be hard to respond to.
This is the New York State Board of Elections public hearing concerning the rules and regulations proposed for voting machines.
My name is Rosemary McLaughlin. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Westchester County. The League of Women Voters continues to be in favor of precinct-based, paper ballot, optical scan voting equipment. This is a proven system which has been used in many states for the past 20 years. It will be easy for election inspectors and voters to adapt to this system because the ballots the voters fill out are similar to the forms used for SAT exams and lottery tickets. The machines rarely break down, but if they do, voting can continue with ballots being dropped into a secure box. We urge the New York State Board of Elections to take time to carefully evaluate and test complete voting systems. We sincerely hope that the coming elections will not present problems on the scale that occurred in Florida and elsewhere in the year 2000. If serious problems should occur, responsibility will rest with those who certified and purchased the machines. Thank you very much.
You realize that your clapping is merely a political statement and not a testament to the quality of the words you heard.
I think I've heard Mr. Zalen say twice, we will rule on the systems that come through the door. If you wait for vendors to offer what they want to offer, then you will see no optical scan paper ballot systems coming through the door. Why? Simple. Vendors are going to make a lot more money from DRE machines.
I'm Suzanne M. Scarpa. I'm the town clerk for Lee. I've been assistant clerk treasurer from 91 till 98 and the town clerk from 98 to present.
Could you tell me what the technology is that Lee, Massachusetts uses to count votes, and what was the previous technology?
We use optical scan, and it's called an AccuVote machine. We did have lever machines prior to this.
Okay, how many lever machines and how many optical scan machines?
We had 8 lever machines, and now we're down to just the one AccuVote machine.
In the 2004 election, how many voters voted on that one optical scan machine?
3,200. We had a very good turnout.
Were there lines to wait, or did it move along fairly quickly?
We have 35 marking booths, so 35 people can mark at the same time. We never had a line. The line generated from the checkout table.
So as far as the scanner itself is concerned, 3,200 people voted and there was never a line?
Nope, not for the machine, not for the marking booths. It's a lot quicker than what we used to have. We used to have long, long lines. I just am very thrilled with the machine because it's really cut down on the waiting time. People want to vote, but they don't want to wait in line. They don't want to take a lot of time. They want to get in, they want to vote, and they want to get out. And 35 people who can mark their ballots at the same time, put it in the machine, and they're done. It's 150% better than it was because we don't have all the lines. You know, we don't have the, people aren't getting frustrated or angry. They can get right in there and get right out.
My name is Ken Hasler. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for LHS Associates. We're an election services company that covers all of New England. I think most governments, state governments right now, have been a little bit optimistic as to how they're going to reduce the cost of going to DRE. I don't know what New York's ratio is, but in Massachusetts it used to be 1 to 800 voters.
For one lever machine.
One lever machine for every 800 registered voters. DREs tend to be a little bit slower than lever machines, especially now that you've got a ballot that's an audit trail that you have to look at before you cast your ballot. And the ratios, as these have been going in around the country, has been more like 1 to 300. Now, 1 to 300 is almost 3 times as much. So the logistical difference is that 1 DRE for every 300 to 500 voters is more realistic than 1 to 800. With an optical scanner, you only really need 1 because that's only a depository. The actual voting takes place in the booth. So if I have, let's just use an example of a precinct or a district, whatever they call them in New York, of 4,000 voters. First of all, we have to start with what ratio we're going to accept. If we use 500 to 1 for DREs, 500 voters for each DRE, you want to be able to handle the traffic, correct? It's like having 1 cash register open with the store full. So you have to have a certain amount of checkout lines. So if we consider each DRE a checkout line, and 500 to 1 is the ratio, you're going to need 8 DREs. DREs cost at least $5,000 a piece. In fact, the full-face touchscreen DREs are going to be in the neighborhood of $8,000 to $9,000 a piece. So let's use that number, because I forget New York has a full-face requirement. Let's use $8,000, right? So we're at $64,000 for DREs. The same location with optical scan and an auxiliary marking device as you requested is let's say $6,500 for the optical scanner, $5,000 for the auxiliary marking device, so $11,500, and about $2,500 for voting booths, so $14,000 versus $64,000. And you're taking care of every single voter.
Heffernan, Hefffernan, trustee of the Village of Cold Spring. Unfortunately, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is that no one believes computers are secure. No one believes computer vendors when they say that computers are secure. To my way of thinking, the simplest solution quite often is the most correct. And staying way behind the bleeding edge of computer technology seems to be the proper course for us to take. Thank you very much. Yes.
The systems we're looking at, and I think people should understand that both the optical scan and the DREs, frankly, are computerized voting systems. They're both computerized.
No, I'm aware of that, and that is very true, and they are both computer-based systems. However, the actual voting, the recording of a vote with the optical scan is done by me. There is no opportunity for software to be an intermediary and create something that I, in fact, did not do myself. We all have experiences with computer-based systems. We all have found out in our own personal lives that computers are extremely expensive to maintain. However, my optical scanner I've been using for almost 20 years. The same one I purchased 20 years ago. I can't say that for my computers. They're replaced every 5 years. The computer maintenance required, the technical assistance being in the hands of vendors are all big red flags. The opinion of all of the people that I have spoken with in my community express shock that a computer-based, I shouldn't say computer-based, that a computer recording of your vote is the underpinning of it, namely the DREs. They find this astounding.
This is the crucial time in New York State and in the entire country. We are looking at the whole-scale replacement of our voting systems by insecure electronic voting systems. We are allowing the privatization of our elections. We are giving away this public sphere to the private vendors. We cannot let that happen. And ladies and gentlemen, the time is now. If not now, when? If not you, then who?